The public is being deliberately misdirected. Media fixation on Khamenei's rhetoric, source 1, and Israel's next-gen missile defenses, source 3, is strategic misdirection. This is not the battle space. It is theater, designed to fixate your attention on the sky while the real war is prepared in the silence below. The true vector is invisible. The objective is not a launch-on-warning event. It is the opposite. It is systemic silence. According to RUSI analysis, 97% of global data, including trillions in daily financial transactions, travels through a handful of undersea cable choke points. Many land in fragile states like Comoros, already flagged for systemic instability, source 4. The protocol is a dual-front attack on the West's central nervous system, a simultaneous severing of subsea data arteries and the blinding of orbital satellite assets. This is the blueprint for creating the blind Leviathan, a Western military and financial apparatus with unmatched kinetic power, rendered inert because it cannot see targets, verify transactions, or coordinate a response. A 300-millisecond data interruption is not an inconvenience. It is a solvency event. The Bank Policy Institute, source 2, models financial contagion. But this is a forced catalyst. The kinetic cost is near zero, but the engineered result is a cascading liquidity crisis. The war will not be fought with armies, but with strategic silence aimed at the West's primary liability, its hyper-leveraged balance sheet. The motive is not ideology, it is insolvency. State actors pivot to asymmetric protocols for one reason. They are mathematically incapable of sustaining a symmetric kinetic war against the West. A conventional conflict is a guaranteed solvency crisis for the aggressor. The fiscal drain of high-end warfare, the sheer kinetic cost of competing plane for plane, ship for ship, is a launch-on-warning system for domestic collapse. Analysis from strategic bodies like CSIS confirms this model. Prolonged, unpopular wars function as a primary domestic liability. The operational burn rate for munitions, logistics, and personnel directly correlates with political instability. The adversary's leadership understands their primary threat is not an enemy army, but their own balance sheet and the fragility of public consent. They cannot afford the war they are expected to fight. This weakness forces the pivot. Unable to afford the entry fee for kinetic warfare, the new blueprint re-engineers the conflict entirely. The objective is no longer to destroy an armored division, but to trigger a liquidity event in a Western financial institution. This is the logic of leverage. Why spend billions on a carrier strike group when a low-cost event in a fragile state like Comoros, as identified by the U.S. travel warning, can trigger a disproportionate cascade of systemic financial liability? The war, therefore, is framed as a solvency crisis from the start. The strategic goal is to export that crisis. By attacking the hyper-leveraged financial architecture of the West, an adversary turns the West's complexity into the primary attack vector. The war is won not by the state that can absorb the most kinetic punishment, but by the one that can trigger the adversary's systemic default first. It's a balance sheet war. The entire calculus of lethality has been inverted. The Royal United Services Institute, RUSI, maps the mathematical certainty. A $5 million main battle tank, a monument to industrial-era power, is now a systemic liability. Its counterparty is a $500 drone. This is not warfare. It is an arbitrage of violence. This 10,000 to 1 cost asymmetry is the engine of what strategists term the democratization of violence. Precision, standoff lethality, is no longer the exclusive domain of nation-states with trillion-dollar budgets. It has been decentralized, commoditized, and placed in the hands of actors who operate outside of established protocols. The low kinetic cost to initiate an attack creates an unsustainable financial liability for the defender, turning every high-value asset into a potential trigger for a solvency event. The operational theater is not the Middle East. It is not the South China Sea. The media's focus on Khamenei's rhetoric, source 1, and next-generation kinetic defenses, source 3, is a strategic misdirection. The actual launch point for the next systemic attack is found in a U.S. State Department travel warning for the Comoros Islands, source 4. This is not a security notice. It is a targeting indicator. These fragile states are the designated gray zones, the proxy laboratories where adversaries can stage low-cost, kinetic events with plausible deniability to generate disproportionate financial liability. Analysts at CSIS confirm the blueprint. Identify a nation with geographic significance but low state capacity. The Comoros warning cites crime and unrest, source 4. To a strategist, this translates to low operational cost and high deniability. The objective is not to conquer the islands, but to use their instability as a staging ground. A minor engineered event in the Mozambique Channel, a key global choke point, creates a massive insurance and derivatives event, turning a tactical action into a systemic financial liability. This is a scalable model. According to REUSI, dozens of similar gray zones are being mapped globally, locations where systemic choke points intersect with political instability. These are not random acts of chaos, they are pre-selected vectors for launching a solvency crisis. The methodology is cold-bloodedly mathematical. Find the point of maximum leverage, where the lowest kinetic cost yields the highest cascading financial damage. Regional instability is merely the symptom that a location is primed for use as a laboratory. The West is preparing for the wrong war. While it perfects high-cost kinetic interception, source 3, our adversaries have adopted a protocol of asymmetric escalation targeting economic foundations. They will not challenge an aircraft carrier. They will trigger an insurance cascade from a location you cannot find on a map. This is the silent admission of the Bank Policy Institute's forward-looking analysis, source 2. The true vulnerability is not military but systemic. The war will be fought on balance sheets, and the first shots will be fired from the world's gray zones. The Launch on Warning protocol is a legacy system from a symmetric, kinetic era. Its logic is brutal. Upon detection of an inbound strategic strike, you launch a retaliatory salvo before your own assets are neutralized. It is a mathematical equation designed to guarantee mutual destruction. However, the modern battle space has rendered this protocol a systemic liability. The new vector of attack is not a hypersonic glide vehicle, it is a ghost in the machine. A targeted cyber attack, deployed at zero kinetic cost, can blind an entire early warning radar network. This induces what strategic analysts at RUSI and CSIS have identified as the fog of digital war. The commander is forced into a solvency calculation under impossible conditions. Is the data loss a system glitch, a hostile spoof, or confirmation that the radar arrays have already been destroyed by a first strike? Fear becomes the trigger. The protocol forces a launch based on the absence of information. The adversary's objective is not to absorb a nuclear response. It is to leverage our own doctrine against us, creating a 50-50 probability of self-immolation. This is the endpoint of asymmetric escalation, turning a nation's ultimate defense into its most profound vulnerability. Within the next 12 months, expect a subsea data cable severance in the Mozambique Channel, proximate to Comoros. This will not be an accident. It is a calibration shot. The objective is not to halt shipping. It is to stress test the digital architecture of global maritime insurance and derivatives markets. The physical repair timeline is irrelevant. The critical metric for the adversary is TTP, time to panic. They will measure the microseconds it takes for algorithmic trading systems to declare force majeure on contracts, triggering a limited but observable liquidity seizure. This is the blueprint acknowledged by analysts at CSIS and RUSI. A low kinetic cost event engineered to probe the systemic vulnerabilities the Bank Policy Institute, source 2, has already modeled. While legacy media reports a dropped anchor, the real war game is happening on the servers of the global financial system, testing the West's true launch-on-warning threshold for a solvency crisis. The travel warning, source 4, was not a caution. It was an area survey for a future financial kill chain.